I would come into my trailer in the morning, and I would put on, the Maisel brothers documentary.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And I would be getting ready and doing everything, but I would be hearing her voice. And there would be a moment while I was listening where I felt the character just kind of go, and then, yeah. But it was through the voice. Sometimes it's through music. What a marvelous garden. Masses of white flowers, blue sky. Oh, da 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 I'll have some coffee. I'll have some coffee, and then we'll all go. And then we can all go. Oh, my dear little cupboard. And there, my dear little cupboard. I've always scattered money about like a madwoman. And I married a man.
Welcome to the Actors Side, and I am so happy to have her with us today. Oscar winner, Emmy winner, millions of Golden Globes, so many awards, but so many great performances, and one of her greatest, I believe, and I'm on record saying that in my film review of the great Lillian Hall, is the great Jessica Lange. How many times since you made the great Lillian Hall do people introduce you as the great Jessica Lange?
I think you're the first.
Oh, really? It is an amazing movie. You can see it on Max, HBO. Came out at the end of May. And you're playing a fictional actress who's not going through dementia, but sort of on the cusp, I would say.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's an extraordinary performance. And I've seen you so many times playing actual real performers, like Patsy Cline, like Joan Crawford, like Frances Farmer, on and on. This is a fictional one. I'm just curious how different that is when you're playing real versus...
Well, it's very different. I mean, when you're playing an actual person, living person, I mean, you feel this great kind of obligation to get them right, to get the voice, their mannerisms, the whole thing. And that's part of the thrill of it too, is because you get to immerse yourself in this other person and study everything about them. But with this, what I loved about this is that we didn't go all the way through. It
Right.
was, that to me was the best decision that was made, that we don't see her at the end of the whole journey, at the end when she's completely lost in the dementia. We just see the battle that she puts up to get through the run of this play on Broadway. And I thought that was such a brilliant way to tell this story, because you see her as, a real fighter, valiant in some way. She's going to she's going to finish this production.
Yeah.
Because theater has meant the world to her. And it was exciting to do because, of course, then you make it all up. You can just kind of create it out of thin air.
Except the cherry orchard.
Except the cherry orchard.
You didn't make that up.
No, I didn't.
and that's the role she's playing.
That was equally thrilling because, I've never played Chekhov on stage.
Yeah.
And just the idea of being able to, just to that extent of what we did in the film, learning that role and going. And I also, the thing that I really loved about this was how the character and the actor mirror their lives, kind of, mirror images.
That was so interesting. I mentioned all those great stars that you played, real stars, from Joan Crawford to Patsy Cline. We're sitting here today in the Academy Museum of Motion Pictures here, where we hear the ghost of many of those people you've played here. Have you ever been to this museum?
I haven't. Isn't that
This
shameful
is the first
of
time.
me to say?
So glad we could bring you here, you know, and show it off.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. I mean, I wish I next time I come to LA, I will have to make a point of like really touring the whole place.
Oh yeah, yeah, and they have a lot of the original Oscar speeches. You've won a couple of those and things, and you know you can go around and listen to it, and even accept your own Oscar here. They have a
Oh really?
yeah,
It's like a photo booth.
yeah, exactly. It's hilarious. At the time Lillian Hall came out, you were also in New York, on stage again in Mother Play, which I have to confess, I happened to be in New York then, and I saw it on Mother's Day.
Oh.
Which was appropriate.
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was headed to the Cannes Film Festival from New York, and I had to find a play that was like under 2 hours so I wouldn't miss my plane.
Right.
So I looked down and I said, I really want to see this show. And it's like 90 minutes or something.
Yep.
So, so I went on Mother's Day, the Helen Hayes Theater, and I have to say, amazing. You know, that was just another great performance. Obviously nominated for a Tony Award too.
It was tough. You know, that play was tough because it's the velocity of it was just relentless. You know, we came on stage and there wasn't a moment to catch your breath.
Right.
From one scene to another to another to another, and we were covering 40 years in the lives of these of this family.
In like 90 minutes, no intermission.
No intermission. No, and I mean, and nobody's really off stage for more than, because we're even doing costume changes, set changes, everything right on stage, and of course the emotional. Experience, that journey that we would take every night in that was just exhausting. It was really exhausting.
I just sometimes look at that 8 times a week you do that, and there is, it says it's a play in 5 evictions. Well, the 4th eviction just blew me away because you're on stage by yourself, silent. Yeah. It's like silent movies almost.
Yeah.
And I was watching that and I'm going like, wow, this is so beautifully choreographed for whatever reason of what you're doing and how you're doing that. Was that a difficult kind of thing to pull off?
Actually, it was my favorite part.
Oh, yeah.
It was really, it was one of my favorite moments in the play. I mean, it wasn't a moment, it was like almost 15 minutes just being on stage by myself with no dialogue, no nothing. But, you know, it was such, it was such an investigation of loneliness that and every night it would present itself in some variation of that.
Oh, that's interesting.
And it was, you know, I mean, we had the guideposts, obviously, the milestones, you know, come in, you take your jacket off, you turn the radio on, you turn the lights on, and, you know, there's dinner, there's this, there's the TV. But throughout all of it, the experience is when you're that lonely and that alone, how do you fill the time? What do you do just to survive the evening by yourself? One more evening alone. Yeah. And
that was
it was really, I loved it. I loved everything about it. The way she creates moments of, you know, that are obviously driven by memory and
And like Lillian Hall, you have played on stage. This was an original play.
Yes, the first time I did.
First time you've done an original play. I thought that might be the case because you've done all these classics. Tennessee Williams at least 3 times with Streetcar, Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, Glass Menagerie. The great one, I'm waiting for this film version that they shot of Long Day's Journey and Tonight. That
my favorite part ever in
the
whole world.
Mary Tyrone.
Mary Tyrone.
It's an extraordinary. Did you watch, like, I mean, I just saw like 3 months ago the Katharine Hepburn A Long Days.
Oh, I had seen it a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was watching, I had never seen it. And it's such a great
Yeah.
play. It's so
Yeah.
well written.
Oh, well.
And
You haven't seen it on stage, though.
no, I have not.
Because it's 4 hours on stage. So, yeah, it's a monster to do. But I think it's the greatest American play, I mean, of all time. It really was, the beginning of that whole genre of family plays, really.
Yeah.
And what he wrote about in his introduction to the play, when he thanks his wife Carlotta for kind of giving him that love and space to be able to confront, the ghosts. And
So great. And
to
you played it
them.
on Broadway and also in London, right?
Yeah.
All of this Broadway, in the theater world fascinates me. And that's one reason I also loved Lillian Hall.
Yeah.
Because it's set in that world of theater. And I've seen so many movies set there.
Yeah.
Of course, All About Eve probably being the pinnacle
Yes,
of
I
them.
would say so. I'd put that up there.
And
Yeah.
Jenna Rollins and opening night, one called Forever Female, I loved with Ginger Rogers, and on and on. It's a great place.
It's a great venue for No, I know that. I mean, because there are a lot of people who are going to see this film and not have ever been to the theater.
Right.
And I mean, there's such lore and mythology about theater, and especially doing a play like this, Cherry Orchard. And that was one of the reasons I really wanted to do this part, was because I knew I was never going to play the Cherry Orchard on stage.
Well, never say never.
But this was going to give me the opportunity to actually play this character.
To do it, and your director is great, Michael Christopher.
Yes, he's wonderful.
Yeah. I saw a play he had done decades ago in L.A., The Shadow Box. And it's very talented.
Yes.
And I love Kathy Bates also.
Isn't she wonderful?
You two were great together. Lily Ray,
the kind
too,
of the Thelma Ritter part is what I call it.
It is the Thelma Ritter part, but she knows and she recognizes you as a friend, as also somebody that's working for you.
Yeah. No, I love working with Kathy. We've worked together many times. And Lily Rabe, who is just heartbreaking in that part. And I mean, I thought we had just a great cast across the board. Jesse Williams, of course, Pierce Brosnan. Who wouldn't want to kiss him?
Kathy Bates is now doing a weekly series. She's doing Matlock every week, and it's a hit.
Yeah.
So, I mean, she'll probably be doing this for 8 or 9 years.
Oh, boy.
Like Angela Lansbury did Murder, She Wrote. Could you ever see yourself doing that, kind of playing the same character over and over and over? No. Because I loved you in American Horror Story, but you're always playing.
Yes, I did those first 4 seasons, and they were completely different characters, completely different stories.
Yeah, which is great.
Yeah, that's the only way I could do something like that.
And it was great. It's like kind of appointment television, but we're going to see you in a different way.
What I loved about it was like a repertory company. And we would do seasons. There would be this play, these characters, this play, these characters. So it was kind of, I liked that part of it very much.
That's fun. Do you have a preference? You do movies, obviously, television, obviously, theater, obviously. Is there one you just love more than the other one, or do you like mixing it up?
I like mixing it up. The thrill of being on stage is not, I mean, there's nothing equal to it, I don't think.
Yeah.
You walk out there and it's just, that's it. You don't have, you don't get a second take. You don't, if you go up, if you forget your lines or whatever, or lose your place, you've got to work your way through it. And that's happened to me on several occasions. Once when I was doing Streetcar, and the great Amy Madigan was playing Stella,
right.
And it was one of early scene, and you know, we'd been playing it for a while. I mean, I knew this backward and forward, and something happens in your brain, and then you just walk out there and you're standing there, and it's like, and she somehow very cleverly took my dialogue and put it in her mouth, and the same thing happened. The same thing happened once with on Mother Play with Celia Keenan-Bolger.
Right.
Where like she
plays your daughter.
Yeah, she saw that like I was just suddenly gone for a moment, and did the same thing. And as soon as that, you're back on track. And of course, but it's an odd phenomenon, because it's not like you forget the lines,
Yeah.
but it's like something. I mean, that's when they say go up, you go up.
Right.
And it's almost like, yeah, you're out of your, it's an outer body experience.
Don't you like yell, line? You know, they always yell.
Yeah. No, it was too late for that.
Ah.
You can do that in rehearsal, but.
Too late, yeah, exactly. I wanted to ask you about some of your films, because you won your second Oscar, your first Oscar for Tootsie.
Yes.
Famously nominated in both categories that year.
Yeah.
You know, only a handful of performers have ever done that, and you did it with lead actress for Frances and supporting for Tootsie, which you won. Mm-hmm. And then you won in '94 for Blue Sky, which is a great performance and a great director.
Yeah.
Tony Richardson. That movie was like shot 4 years before that, right?
It was shot, not 4, I think it was maybe 3. Again, it was one of these things that, one of these films that got caught in, you know, one studio buying out another studio.
Right.
And I think that, I mean, it actually sat in a bank vault while they determined who owned what or whatever.
That would happen.
And what was really sad about it was Tony died before the film was released.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he never got to see you win the Oscar for that role.
Or to see how well received his film was.
Yeah, and it was really good. And you know, when your film doesn't show up for 3 or 4 years, you say, "Oh, what's the trouble?" There was nothing wrong with that.
No. It was just one of those horrible things where I can't remember the particulars of it, but yeah, some studio folded or was bought out by. Anyhow. Movie business.
Yeah. We have something in common. We both made our film debuts in the same movie, King Kong.
Really?
Yeah. Now you went on.
Who did you play?
Well, I was an extra in the stands when King Kong escapes the Pet Rocks thing, and everybody's getting trampled and all of that.
Right.
And they said, "Okay, this stand, run through it." It was on the back lot at MGM. I remember. Well, I was working as a page at NBC, and they were looking for people. I guess not to pay them. Well, this sounds like fun. So we're out there doing King Kong, and that was a memorable debut for you. You won a Golden Globe for it, actually.
Well, I mean, I was naive, which is probably the best way to do that film. I didn't know anything about anything. It was like, yeah. But, you know, now that I look back on it, what an incredibly crazy experience, especially I remember Chuck Grodin saying to me somewhere in like the 8th month of shooting, he said, you know, most films aren't like this. So it was like, yeah. But we shot right up until, and I think the film came out right around the end of the year, right around Christmas release or something like that.
Yeah.
We were still shooting in November.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It was
That's
like
amazing.
a 9-month shoot. It was like being pregnant.
I got my scene done one night. You had to go through the whole thing, but it's fun, you know, I mean, to have that. But you didn't do another film for 3 years until All That Jazz, right?
Yeah.
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 With
Fosse.
For the next, which is, you do Fosse, you do Postman, Always Rings Twice.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite film beyond, character? You mentioned Mary Tyrone.
Mary Tyrone. You know, when I think back, I mean, different ones for different reasons, but one, of course, would be Frances Farmer. Because that was like, that was like a gift from the gods to be given that part, especially since I'd only done 1 or 2 films before that, you know, and to have the opportunity to work with Kim Stanley was, I mean,
so rare, and she didn't make that many movies.
no, at that point, that was, she only did one, maybe one more.
And she was nominated, as I recall, for
Yes,
supporting
yeah,
actress
I know,
opposite you
I know,
in
in
Tootsie.
I know, it's nuts.
Yeah.
But we had the opportunity to work together because, you know, she was out of the actor's studio, and I mean, I had done work from, you know, out of the actor's studio with this wonderful coach and teacher, Sandra Seacat. So we did like a couple weeks of just improv, working together, and Sandra would be there as the moderator, and Kim and I would just like do improvs all day long, day after day after day, just to get this sense of mother-daughter and history. And yeah, it was just, I don't know, it was one of those gifts that you're given, and especially because I was so young and it was so early on, just to be able to work with somebody like Kim Stanley.
Yeah, I mean, that was Seance on a Wet Afternoon is...
Or The Goddess.
The Goddess, yeah. Patty Chayefsky, which wrote that.
I know.
I don't think anybody knows The Goddess now.
Really?
They should see this movie.
Oh,
a young
my God.
Patty Duke was even in it. And, you know,
yeah. I used to watch The Goddess before I'd start working on a film, just to like remind myself what great acting was.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is that part of your process?
It was, yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people, you know, have different ways.
I have a lot of different tricks and things, but
which one of them?
Well, one of them was to watch The Goddess, just to make me pay attention and to try to step up the game a little bit here. But yeah, I mean, I find different approaches, but a lot of times I find it through the voice, my way into the character.
Oh, that's interesting.
Like for instance, when I was doing Grey Gardens.
Yeah.
But of course, Big Edie, Beale.
Big Edie,
yeah. I would come into my trailer in the morning, and I would put on, you know, the Maisel brothers documentary.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And I would be getting ready and doing everything, but I would be hearing her voice. And there would be a moment while I was listening where I felt the character just kind of go, and then, but it was through the voice. Sometimes it's through music. Yeah.
That was another example of getting to play a person and having that advantage.
Yeah.
Sometimes actors have books, you know, the movie's based on a book, they can go back to the book and find stuff that's not in the script.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And different kinds of ways of doing that. But you're not a method actor, are you?
Not in the purest sense, no.
Right. Where you can't.
But I mean, I certainly did take a lot of Strasberg exercises to heart.
Yeah. Because that's interesting to me, because some actors will not get out of character on the set. And, you know, Daniel Day-Lewis famously said, "Address me as President Lincoln" during the whole time.
That's kind of funny. Yeah.
It's amazing. Is there a role Jessica Lange still wants to play that you haven't gotten the chance to, that you really, either on stage or somewhere?
Well, there are a couple things, There's a project that Michael Christopher and I have been developing that's been in kind of development hell. The script is there. It's there 100%. It's just getting it set up and made. Of Dietrich.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's...
In that period of time where, I mean, in a way, it kind of mirrors the, you know, the Betty and Joan thing of, you know, an actor, especially during that time, getting to a certain age, and then, you know, the bottom falls out, and there's...
Right.
So this starts with Dietrich at a point in her life where she's no longer a viable movie star.
Okay.
And she started doing all those, like, Las Vegas acts, and then,
With Burt Bacharach.
Yes,
He was
and
her conductor.
That's the story.
God, this would be amazing.
that's
the whole
where it
thing between
starts.
I'm a big,
Yeah.
huge Bacharach fan,
Yeah.
so I know his story.
Yeah.
And he wrote a book about it, actually.
Huh.
But his book talks about doing Dietrich.
Yeah. Yeah, so it kind of covers from that moment where he comes into her life and she's doing this rather, you know, bizarre act in Vegas.
Yeah.
And then crafts this whole new persona for her.
Yeah.
And she goes on tour, and, you know, I mean, there's all this, she's going back to Germany and, you know, being for the first time and being spit on by people and called a traitor and everything. And
This sounds great.
it is. It's a great script.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll get that done. That's one part that I still want to play.
And we're going to get this done because I'm going to put it all over Deadline. We have
Okay.
to do this.
Okay. Yes, you help us here.
I'm going to help you get this done because that's
Yeah.
really exciting.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, there's so much that you've done so far that people really love and appreciate, and the great Lillian Hall. If you have not seen this yet, just go to Max. However you can see this, it's just an amazing performance. It really is.
It really was a great part, and I loved doing it.
Yeah. Well, Jessica Lange, thank you so much for joining us on
Thank
the
you.
Actor's Side.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.